Hey, welcome to video number 2 for Gigs on Ships. I'm Fred Becker. This is Bobby, and we are here to talk about guest entertainers on board a cruise ship. What makes a successful act? Now, if you watched video number 1, you would have heard about all the opportunities in the cruise ship market for entertainers. Today, we want to talk about entertainers specifically. So, Bobby, tell us who are we addressing with this video?
So what we want you to understand is that there's a term that we use on cruise ships called guest entertainer. And what that means might be confusing to some of you if you've never worked on a cruise ship or you've never been on a cruise. And there's a lot of different categories for entertainers on a ship. You might be a lounge act, somebody that sort of performs every single night in the lounge, where you might be a piano player or something like that.
Piano bar
Act, a guitarist, an acoustic guitarist, or whatever. Obviously, that person is an entertainer. You might be a production singer with a big cast of singers and dancers, and that is obviously an entertainment category on the ship. You might be somebody who works in the atrium doing sort of like a sideshow type of act on some of the bigger ships where they have sort of circus acts and such come in. But what we're specifically discussing is what is called a guest entertainer. And that means somebody who headlines the main stage in the theater, somebody who is considered a guest on board with guest privileges. However, we work and do a show while we're there. So what we're really trying to do is, for those of you who already have successful acts on sea, headline main stage shows, we want to teach you how to take that act out to sea and become a guest entertainer.
Right. And who might that be? It might be a comedian. It might be a singer. It may be ventriloquist, magician, a juggler, an illusionist. There's a tribute bands.
Yeah, tribute bands. There's a lot
celebrity
of categories.
Impersonators.
Anything that would be considered an actual main stage show that could captivate an audience for 45 minutes on very large stages. Not that every stage will be large, but you want to have that capability.
I think that's right. I named all those types of acts, but maybe that's not you. The idea is you could be some specialty act that I didn't name. There's instrumentalists, for example. It's whoever can go out on stage and capture, headline that a group of people, keep those people entertained for, we'll say 45 minutes, and that's you. And that's pretty much your entire job. So, we looked at this a couple of years ago. I want to go back and look at what Fred and Bobby 2014 might have said about...
A little bit skinnier, had maybe different hair,
I had
a little less wrinkles.
I had darker hair and more of it. So let's check in with Fred and Bobby when they talked about what makes a successful cruise ship act. I think the other element that makes an act successful, it's not the type of act, it's the performance that can cover the time involved.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So let's actually talk about how much time is required.
Okay. A cruise ship show, almost by definition, is 45 minutes. So you want to be able to, at bare minimum, cover 45 minutes. Now, if you have an act that only does 20 minutes, can they find work?
Okay, so that's a great question. And I think that if you have an act that has 20 minutes, there's still a spot for you, because we're seeing, as you mentioned earlier, more themed venues that maybe want a variety type show. So there's a room for a 20-minute spot. I would say you will have more difficult path if you only have 20 minutes worth of material.
Okay, yeah, you said exactly what was on my mind, yeah. There's definitely places out there, they're niched, they're a little bit harder to find, you're going to have to work a little harder to get them, but I would also say, though, if you can fill that niche, you don't have as much competition.
Right.
In some ways, we're a commodity. We're magicians, and we can be replaced by
another magician. Right.
But if you're this specific act that no one else does, nobody can replace you, and you've just owned that niche.
Yeah, and it will come down to selling an agent or a cruise ship buyer and showing them how your act could be utilized on their ship. And that will require a lot of research and things that we'll delve into later on in greater detail.
Right.
If you're that type of act, then there will be an opportunity for us to discuss that with you a little bit further. However, I would say one of the things that you can do right now, if you are somebody who has a solid tight, say 20, 25 minutes, is you can start thinking about how you can make your show into a 45-minute act.
Right. How do you expand that?
Yeah, and likewise, let's say you're a singer and you have 8 songs and you really like to sing those. You're probably not going to be hired for a cruise ship if everything you do is, and for my next song I sing this, and for my next song I sing this.
We've seen that.
I sang this when I was 10 in a talent show.
Yeah.
That's not an act, that's not a show. You really need patter, you need some comedy, something lighthearted and something that people enjoy.
And something with meaning to it.
Yeah,
maybe.
a little bit of heart. We want, you want to put on a show that you'd be willing to pay and sit down and watch for 45 minutes.
Actually, that brings up another idea. It should be a little bit commercial as well. You have to appeal to everybody on the ship, in a sense.
Well, and another term for commercial might be sort of clean or family friendly, let's
Must
say.
be, yes. There are some cruise ships that will have late night shows where they allow it to be a little more risque. But for the most part, if you want to work on cruise ships, you need squeaky clean material to work the main showroom, which is the most important part of the job.
You really need to take a personal inventory of your act and make sure that it is commercial, mainstream, family friendly, whichever term you like to use best. So hopefully now you understand that there really isn't a magic formula for what act works best at sea, but you understand that you need a minimum of 45 minutes worth of material to perform. Ideally, you'd have 45 minutes plus a 15-minute spot for a variety show.
It's a good point. A lot of my contracts read that.
Yeah.
45 plus 15 if needed.
And Fred and I actually have 2 full 45-minute shows, and we can squeeze out an extra half hour if we have to.
Right.
So best case scenario, if you want to work a lot, the more material, the better. If your act is great, a lot of doors will be knocked down for you right away.
All right, Bobby, there was a little bit of a time capsule. I've noticed our watches have changed.
I think I had on a Fitbit in the other one. So.
And I appear a little bit taller right now than I did in that video. I'm sitting on a stack of books.
Yeah, I think some things have changed over the couple of years, but including in the cruise industry. So let's revisit.
So what was different to you?
And the reason that we decided to keep that video is that a lot of it was still very poignant, but there have been a few changes, and specifically related to COVID and what the pandemic has done to the industry. And so we wanted to address that a little bit. And number one, I would say timing. The amount of time and material that you have. That's definitely different now.
Right.
Then we talked about how you might be able to find a spot if you just had a 20-minute niche act. That would not be a guest entertainer status on a ship at this point.
Agree and a little bit disagree. There are a couple new ships coming out that will be launching soon that have very themed theaters all around them. So there may be opportunity for
possibly,
specific.
but it looks like more you need it as a comedian, let's say,
right.
35 minutes for the comedy rooms, which there's a lot of ships that are niching in that area where they have a specific comedy room, and you need a couple of shows. I know they're requiring quite a bit of material out of people, and including even on some of the more conservative vessels, adult comedy now.
Right.
So that's something that you might want to consider. And I would also say that at this point in time, they really are looking for acts that have a lot more material. Because of the pandemic, they may want you to be on board a little bit longer, and they need to get as much performance value out of you as they can during these times. So
right. So we don't want to discourage you, but more material is probably better. And
I would say there are more acts that are looking for 45 minutes right now than there were previously.
right.
And again, we discussed this all throughout our course, how trends ebb and flow. We couldn't foresee a worldwide pandemic when we made these videos, but the basis still holds true, ebbing and flowing of trends. So while right now, at the timing of this, us talking live in 2021, it's a trend. They need more material if you have it.
And everything's very fluid. So we're finding even from cruise line to cruise line, there are different guidances that have to do with COVID related interactions with passengers. So
and that's truly changing week by week.
Right.
I mean, that's not an exaggeration. We're getting different information on the regular about what's happening with different cruise lines. And so it varies from cruise ship to cruise ship. Sometimes it varies based on the itinerary and the place that they're going. And through Gigs on Ships, we keep our students informed of all of the changes, all of the news related specifically to guest entertainers.
And basically, we've learned that there is a big appetite for entertainers right now. So if you can fill that need, it's a great opportunity to do so right now. But we do want to make sure that you have, watching this video, have actionable steps to take that will let you sort of prepare yourself for that industry. And we'll be talking about that more in upcoming videos. So we do want to invite you back to make sure that you see that. But Bobby and I also had put together a list of things that you could do right now to help get yourself ready. So should we take a look at that?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
All right, Fred. So let's talk about some actionable steps that they can take as we go into video 3 from now until then.
Okay, I can think of 3, and we are going to call these inventories.
Okay.
So number 1 is inventory yourself, your act. Let's look at what you have to work with, right? How much material you have, how much time you can cover. Do you have the 45 minutes plus an extra 15 if needed? Is that there? And what kind of shape is it in? Is there a beginning, middle, and an end? Does it have elements in it that appeal to cruise ship audiences? Things like audience participation, that idea.
And is it clean?
Right, is it clean? So it's an inventory of what you have to work with. Number 2?
They can take an inventory of what they don't have. So, for example, as a singer, I am not a comedian. So I would lack a little bit of patter and or jokes for my show when I was originally creating it. So what I needed to do is step outside of my comfort zone and go to somebody who could tell a joke and have them write some jokes for me to put into my show. So I'm just using that singer example because it's personal to me. Take that, whatever's personal to you, step outside of your comfort zone and see what is it that my show is missing now that I need for a cruise ship audience. Maybe it's audience participation and you're not comfortable with that. Then figure out a way that you can get somebody to help you with that, because we want to make your show the best that it can be for a cruise ship audience.
So action number 1, inventory what you have. Number 2, inventory what's missing and how to fix that. And number 3 is inventory what your audience is, what they have to offer in a way. What I mean is, cruise lines have different demographics. Some appeal to a young, hip audience. Some are budget cruises. Some are very, very expensive cruises, and it tends to be older professionals. Some are like retirement age. And each one of these, a different type of performer will do better in that environment, tends to be. So if you can think of who your perfect audience is, who you appeal to, who you'll be most successful in front of, then you can start to target which cruise line is your best candidate for a gig.
And that's a really good point, Fred. Essentially, it comes down to knowing who you are. If you can answer those questions, then you are head and shoulders above the majority of people who are probably already on the phone trying to contact a cruise agent to pick them up right now.
Right. All right, so very specific things that you can do. Just now's the time to take a look at your act and yourself and see how you might fit in. You could do a little research about different cruise lines and which ones match up naturally to you. And those will probably be your best prospects going forward, right?
That's right.
All right. Now, we want to invite you back for video number 3 in our series, where we will be talking about life on board
the ship.
Yep.
What it's like to actually live on the vessel, work on the vessel, and travel the world.
And we'll also look at 4 very specific mistakes that I see people make when they're entering the cruise market. We really talk to our students a lot about making a really good first impression. You only get one chance to make that first impression, and in the cruise game, that may be all you get.
That
right?
may be. Yep.
Yep. So we want to make sure.
We don't want you to mess that up.
Right, exactly. So that's the purpose of video number 3. Please come back for that, and it will be like probably below this one on the page, and it'll be launching in a couple days or so. So we will see you then. Until then, it's Fred and Bobby wishing you bon voyage.